This summary was written by Reddit user the Dash Rendar and is being posted here with his permission. Imagine being China for a moment and having to put up with this Hong Kong bullshit. Be China. British, French, and other European empires invade, make your weak and cowardly monarchy into a puppet, force opium upon the entire population, turning them to addicts and becoming literal slaves to the West. Repeated attempts by the Chinese to fight off this oppression results in hostility and brutality and massacres from the invading empires and brutal crackdowns on the opium-addled population. British decide that they need a more prominent port city to maintain naval presence, but more importantly, to steal China's labor and resources. The British decide that Hong Kong belongs to them now, and they will rule over it. China protests and manages to negotiate England into a 99-year lease for Hong Kong, despite this awful situation being literally forced upon them at gunpoint. China, under Mao, manages to fight back the West and Western allied governments, providing liberation from the yoke of imperialism and allowing China to have autonomy and self-determination of a nation once again. China has literally millions of soldiers ready to march, could send them all into Hong Kong and take their city back by force at any time, the same way it was taken from them. Instead, China fully agrees to play by the rules. It was a 99-year lease, so they let the British continue to lease it for the remainder of those 99 years. They used Hong Kong as a British port to facilitate a century of wealth extraction from mainland China. This grew the wealth of Hong Kong with the trade and tariff for the stolen assets of mainland China. Hong Kong citizens have been retrained and re-educated in a British imperial system and now make up a much wealthier strata than mainland Chinese, forming a middle management and heavily fictionalized sector. 99-year lease finally ends. China says, okay, we played by all the rules, even though they were nonsense and forced upon us at gunpoint. We played by them anyway. Now we do not wish to continue this lease and would like our city back. British throw in phony last-minute elections during the final moments before the lease officially ends. But you'll be ruining Hong Kong democracy. China officially gets their city back, despite the whining and flailing, crying and complaining of the insufferable British Empire. China realizes that Hong Kong is operating under a very different political system. Rather than bringing in the mainland China political system, which they have every right to do, the same rules that apply to Beijing citizens or Chengdu citizens should apply to all Chinese, including Hong Kong. But the Chinese government decides to be totally reasonable and install the two-system, one-country to allow Hong Kong to keep many of their British-imposed traditions and customs. China finally says, great, now our Chinese citizens can return to our city of Hong Kong and live there. Mainland Chinese begin to move and live in Hong Kong. Much wealthier Hong Kong class is repulsed by this influx of much poorer, much less wealthy, filthy mainland population coming to take their jobs, bring Chinese traditions back to this Chinese city. Chinese taxes are considerably higher on the mainland than on Hong Kong. China plans to take part of the plundered wealth and assets of rich Hong Kongers and use it to improve conditions and lives of the poorest people in the mainland. Remember, China is the world leader in ending poverty. Hong Kongers see poor immigrants and higher taxes and start freaking out. A rich multimillionaire literally murders his pregnant girlfriend and flees the country. Protesters come out of the woodwork en masse in Hong Kong in support of the murdering multimillionaire. The West sees their opportunity, sends government specialist agents media crews to Hong Kong, brings in Hong Kong pro-murder protest leaders for training, supplies protesters and encourages them to take to the streets and escalate the situation. Western news media. China is oppressing Hong Kong. China sighs. How the fuck is anyone falling for this bullshit?